On July 31st, former President Trump had a rally in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I know that not everybody is an advocate for Trump's stances or his brash personality. However, after seeing the events that transpired in Butler, Pennsylvania on the 13th of July, I was personally really glad that he escaped from the scene of the shooting alive. A total of 8 shots were reportedly fired into the crowd, leading to Trump and two others to be wounded. Corey Compertor was tragically killed by the gunfire simply by choosing to support a certain political candidate in person at the event. This was all avoidable, and while I don't know if we'll ever really get all of the answers, it doesn't give me really any confidence in the Secret Service at all. How difficult was it for them to secure a rooftop, and why would they have to be reminded to by such an incident like this? While Trump lived, if that bullet would have just been an inch to the right, we'd be looking at a very different scene right now. And in the clip of Trump raising his fist in defiance with the blood streaking down the right side of his face was something that I never thought that I'd see. The whole event just gave me cold chills the first time I saw it, and I personally gained a new respect for him after seeing his natural reaction just after barely dodging death. Well, I'm someone who often listens into what the politicians and the media are saying. I try to keep up with everything. I decided that I actually wanted to go and experience a Trump rally and go see the president. Of course, actually being there would be far different from merely watching it in a video, as I typically do for this candidate or that candidate. I went to Donald J. Trump events to see when his next rally was and saw that he was actually returning to Pennsylvania for the first time since the attempt on his life. I figured that that one would be a good one to go to since it wasn't too far of a drive and it was in Pennsylvania after what had just happened. We got a hotel that was just a little bit away from New Holland Arena where the event would take place, and since the event was indoors, that meant that there'd be a much smaller capacity. I searched it up in advance and they only had a capacity of like 7,300. I remember the exact time that we got out of the truck, which was 9:18 a.m., and Trump wasn't scheduled to speak until 6 p.m. However, we didn't want to just get into the event. We also wanted to get a seat that was actually closer to the stage. We made our way through all the vendors and tents selling the Trump flags and iconic Trump shirts, Trump hats. There was already a good number of people in line as well. They had them lined up in these metal barriers that zigzagged across the grass. Later on, we heard that there were people lined up starting at midnight and even 5 in the morning, and they wouldn't even be getting into the place until 2 p.m. So that meant that some of these people were going to wait 14 hours just to get a good seat inside, 16 to see the former president. You see a Trump rally and you think that these people, perhaps they just got off work and thought, what the heck, let's go to a Trump rally, but that really wasn't the case at all. Anybody that is an indoor event or anywhere close to the stage has gotten there early and they've really waited around for hours just to get that premium location. There were literally guys that were leasing umbrellas, lawn chairs, and selling water to all the people there. It was over 90 degrees, a typical July day. I had a really nice camera that I wanted to use to take pictures from inside the event, but there were security guys that would routinely patrol the line to see what people were taking in, and one of them said that the camera wasn't allowed in. They had a long list of prohibited items, and the camera wasn't really on there in any sort. It's kind of aggravating that security would let a man on the roof with an AR-15. I guess they thought he was up there trying to fix an air conditioner or something, but not a fellow like me with a camera into the arena. I had to put it back in the truck. My phone took decent-ish pictures. I had a Google Pixel 7, but they certainly wouldn't be as good as that camera, especially for zooming in up close. We returned to our place in line along with the magnificent sweltering heat. They had some good music playing the whole time, and all the other people were just really so nice and easy to talk to. After waiting outside for hours upon end, we were finally allowed up the drive and towards the building where the event was scheduled to take place in. I remember as we were going up the stairs and into the building, you could just feel the air conditioning just blasting out and escaping outside. It was very refreshing after waiting out there for so long. There were TSA agents and metal detectors to make sure that there was nothing bad of any sort. We decided to settle on what would be the left hand. If you were the speaker, it would be your left hand side. And it seemed as though that region was the kind of most desirable place that most people wanted to be, because that area filled up first out of anything. With enough given time, everybody who was waiting outside in the crowd out in the summer heat trickled into the building where they all took their seats. And there were certain members of the U.S. House that were there to speak in favor of the president. There was Dave McCormick was there, who is running for U.S. Senate right now. Another person we saw there who I didn't expect to see was that Alina Habba, who, if you've been paying attention, has been Trump's lawyer during a lot of his legal cases, and I think she's actually joined the Trump campaign at this point. But we've always seen all kinds of her on the various networks, so it's pretty neat to see her in person as well. After all the early afternoon speakers passed, there were various political ads and different songs that were playing throughout the time that we had to spend waiting. And eventually 6 o'clock, which was the time that Trump was supposed to come out and speak, came and went, and people were starting to kind of get a little bit anxious, because some of these people had been waiting around for hours upon hours upon hours. Whenever 6:15 came, whenever 6:30 came, it just kept on getting later and later, and there was still no sign of Trump showing up. Some of the people in front of us would look at their email invitation again and would point to one another that he was supposed to show up at 6, but yet it was 6:30 at the time. And then all of a sudden, Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA came on over the very loud speaker system. At 7:01, Trump emerges from behind the curtain to the most deafening cheering and thunderous applause I have ever heard in my entire life. And the people just went ballistic when they saw him. I'd never been to any kind of political rally or rock concert, but that's about the closest thing I could compare it to, a rock concert, when he stepped from behind the curtain. The people were so happy to see him, and they were very supportive of him, even though they had to wait essentially their entire day just to see him in person there. It was such an uplifting and incredible moment that it didn't even feel real. And I would have videoed it from my perspective, but he only comes out once, and my phone took better pictures than it did videos. That's why I chose to take pictures rather than a video. But they gave him the loudest welcome I've ever heard. I've never been to something like this before, and I haven't been to a rock concert, which might be the closest thing I could compare it to. I've never been to a rock concert before. They greeted him with such joy and such appreciation, even after waiting that long. I mean, when he walked out, it didn't even feel real to me, just because I'm always used to, I've seen all kinds of news conferences with them and town halls, debates, rallies, those kinds of things. When he came out, it was unreal, really. It was so incredible just to see him in person, and the room just went up in joy. Whenever he finally came to the microphone, as the applause finally calmed down, he talked a little bit about the assassination attempt that happened in Butler and how he actually intended on going back to Butler. I thought that this was kind of his big return to Pennsylvania, but he even said that he planned on going specifically back to Butler, maybe even to that field, as a matter of fact. We had a moment of silence for Corey Compertor, who is the only man killed in the shooting. We had a moment of silence, and if you watch the rally, I'll link it off of his YouTube channel, the one that we went to. If you watch the rally, the whole place goes silent whenever there's a moment of silence for Corey Compertor, and he says it whenever the silence is over. You could just about hear a pin drop. I mean, it was so silent. I think they did a GoFundMe for Corey Compertor's family. At the time of me recording this, people have literally given the Butler, Pennsylvania victims, including Corey Compertor's family, this is on GoFundMe, $6,583,000, and the goal was $1 million. Well, that was a crushed goal. 70,000 donations. There's a lot of good people out there. But after a little greeting the crowd and talking about Corey Compertor, the conversation drifted towards the situation that happened with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the new campaign. Everything was kind of uprooted there, because initially it was Trump Vance running against Biden Harris, and now all of a sudden it's Harris Walsh, I think is the way you pronounce his last name. But I don't think that she hadn't actually chosen Tim Walz yet at the time that this rally was taking place. It was just she was running at the top of the ticket, but he was speaking out against the opposing side, the Democrats. He was speaking out against them, their politicians on their side, and a lot of their policies specifically. A lot of the people were just laughing this way and that, or clapping for what he said as though it was almost some kind of big stand-up comedy show. At some point through the speech, I didn't want to, because I wanted to sit through the whole thing right there and be that up close. But I also knew that I might never see Trump again. So I wanted to get up and take some pictures from some other angles. So I got up at some point, maybe about a third of the way through the speech. I got up, I climbed up the stairs behind us, and I got back in that little corridor that circled the whole place, and I walked down to the more southern end of the arena to get another picture from perhaps more towards the front or so. But I got multiple pictures from that angle, zoomed in and taken, and then I walked down to the exact opposite, because I thought that would be a good angle. That's kind of what you see whenever you watch any of these things online. You see it directly from the front. So I got a couple from up there too. And I thought those were good. I also thought that some more from the right and even one from behind would be awfully nice too. I then went around again and went back into the halls and snuck a little bit closer, coming back up north again. And as I came further back around, I realized that on one of these staircases down to the floor, there weren't a whole lot of them. Just anybody could get down to the floor even during the event. I kind of got the feeling from the police officers and Secret Service people that they didn't really want you to move around a whole lot during the event. But I figured, hey, I'm here and we drove all this way or whatever. So I rushed down to the floor, and I even took multiple pictures from multiple angles from the floor, just because I thought that would also be kind of a neat perspective, also capturing the size of the crowd, because you don't really see the crowd whenever you watch everything on the news or whatever. If you watch the rally on YouTube per se, you don't ever see the crowd. You just see couple people behind him really, and him up there all by himself. But this was the point in the rally in which he started talking about that chart that he just happened to look to the right at whenever the shots rang out in Butler, and that was kind of funny, his response to it, about how the chart saved his life, and he's gonna go to sleep with that chart each night because it's the only reason why he's here right now.
You can see it on a certain chart that I have. You know, this chart saved my life. Where is that chart? I love that chart. I'm going to sleep with that chart for the rest of my life, that chart. That chart.
And that's the illegal immigration into the U.S. chart. And I caught some pictures of him kind of looking up at it. And he actually even called up the lady, but he wants her to come out to see the crowd, so somebody finally does, and it's like, we sure weren't expecting this. And she comes out all the way to the microphone and just says, "Hi," and then turns around and goes back towards the area with the curtains and the flags. That is the backstage kind of area.
Hi.
No, she's a computer genius.
But after paying such attention to what it was that was happening and seeing that chart in the background of that footage, that's what he was presenting at the time of the shooting. It was pretty neat to see it in person after what had happened. But I got multiple angles like that, and then once I felt satisfied with all the pictures that I'd taken, which is rather difficult for me. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to photography, even when it's with a phone, which I don't like to take pictures with my phone so well. I got back up into the stairs and went back into those little doorways with the halls. And then I came out directly over his right shoulder, and there were some people gathered kind of in this area, but I was still able to get some good pictures over their shoulders of him speaking with a little portion of the crowd right there. And then I got a little bit further behind him, and here's what I think are some of the best pictures from the night, which are alternative to where we were sitting. I thought I got some good ones from where we were sitting too. But you can just see the back of him standing over the podium, speaking out to the mass of the crowd. I mean, there's a lot of people. There were a lot of people, and you can see in this one the big spotlight shining out onto directly him, so that he's kind of the center of attention. But it's really just, it was quite a place to be. I'd never seen anything quite like it. I'd never seen a president or former president, and I just thought that it would be something neat to go see and do, especially after what the tragedy that happened in Butler. I really wanted to go see Trump before something bad did happen to him on top of that. But he finished up his speech talking about, like, from this city to this city, this city to this city, relative to which state he's in. And the music started playing again, and he finally left. This speech was about an hour and 30 minutes. Most of them are. I mean, he spends a lot of time with each crowd, and people kind of bash him for just rambling on about nothing importance, but I kind of like it, because it's like he's having a conversation with the voter. He has a full conversation, and that really gave me the opportunity for him to linger around long enough for me to walk around the whole place and get pictures from really all angles that I didn't anticipate on getting pictures from this many sides. People gave him another big round of applause as he was leaving, and he disappeared behind the curtain once more, and people knew that that was the last time that they were going to see him for that night. So about as soon as he was gone, about everybody was standing up and getting ready to leave as the music was playing. And I mean, it was just an incredible experience to be a part of. So as we left the building, there was just a flood of people coming from everywhere that had been in there, and I was just so fortunate to have been able to see the former president in person, to be able to get some great pictures of him. But anyways, I hope that you enjoyed the video. This was something a little different from what I've typically done. I got a pretty bad sunburn from standing out in line all day, and I got COVID somewhere along the way home. But for some of those pictures I got, it was all worth it. It was all worth it. So hope that you enjoyed, and as always, thank you so much for watching.